Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. This maxillary up here is actually putting on quite a good show. I wasn't expecting much from this as I haven't had it long, but then that's just because I don't. Then if you get lots of blooms, it's a bonus. If you expect them and you don't get them, it's a disappointment. Always think on the positive. But anyway, there's 4 blooms out round the back. 2 up there and another 2 there, so it's actually got 8 blooms out at the moment, and there's still a few buds to come. And the new growths are pushing on now as well, so it is a good plant. It should fill that basket, and rest of this year should push on nicely. The orange Cattleya is just starting to open. It's watering day for that, probably tomorrow or the day after. By then there might be a couple of more blooms, so I'll film it closer then. That's still hanging in there, still looking good. And Noblies and stuff are all doing their thing. That zygo's holding on well. Do you know that since I got that's a while ago now, that hasn't dropped a bloom. And the spike round the, whoops, bash the camera around, why don't you? The spike round the side's pushing on nicely as well. So even if the blooms go over, I've still got another spike to come. And then unfortunately, it's going to have to come out of its pot. So that's probably the end of the line for it. Me and zygos, we don't do so well. But I'm hoping this, this is a good plant. It's got plenty of roots. Let's just hope we can keep them. It's just one of those plants I just don't get on with. But I'm hoping this is a good plant to start with, and which is what I was after. So it's got the best chance of hanging on. We'll see. And this is still there. This has been out ages now. It did have 2 blooms, but I took it in the lounge to see it, basically, and keep it a little bit warmer, perhaps. But that meant that you take the life off of Paphiopedilum blooms if you keep them too warm and the air's too dry. You're going to reduce the life a bit. They're better kept cool when they're in bloom. But because it came back out here, this one's hanging on. I was expecting that to go over. It's doing okay. The Vanda up there, the big white one, that's going to go next day or 2. Starting to get the brown edges and the limp looking petals, so that spike will have to come off soon. But today's video really is about this pot, the sunken pot. So first job really is to get it out of the pot, because part of the experiment really was to see how much water it absorbs. And quite honestly, that's virtually none. Now, what can we read into that then? What we can read into that is rock hard clay. Yeah? It's not soft, porous, absorbent clay. It's hard clay. I mean, that water level hasn't dropped. Virtually none. Okay, so that means it's not very good at absorbing excess salts and fertilizers and holding on to them. So that's a bonus. And the important thing really is what has it leached out into the water. That's what I'm really interested in. That was the reason for doing this. Now, we started off with a TDS of 8 yesterday, didn't we? Let's give it a bit of a mix round and see how much it's gone up. It's gone up to 18. Well, 10 points on a TDS meter in quite a small amount of water, quite honestly, is next to nothing. I can live with that. So the amount that's come out of that pot, I would not consider to be a big deal. Nonetheless, as a sort of precaution and a preparation phase, immediately prior to using those pots, they will get a soak in RO water. Just to soak off anything that the manufacturer put on the outside. Some people put something to make them look a little bit shinier or something. But yeah, I think these are pretty good quality pots. I'm quite happy with that reading. As I said, a TDS reading of 10, you can get that much difference just by changing the blinking temperature. Now, I didn't measure the pH yesterday because I know it went in RO water and I know it was 7. But this could be important too, because if any calcium's leached out of there, it's going to raise the pH quite dramatically. And that I don't want. You have to wait for this thing. It always reads high and then goes down. So what have we got then? Dropping slowly as it does. You have to be patient with this thing. It can take up to a minute to give a true reading. I don't know why it takes a flipping long. But yeah, it's dropping down. I mean, that was 7.9 when I turned it on. We're down to 7.4, 3. Yeah, I think it's going to hover about there. So probably the TDS increase, we're down to 7.2 now. Well, that's negligible. 0.2 on a pH scale is not going to worry me. And don't forget, 7.1, it's dropping down. So yeah, I think it's going to hover about 7.1, 7.2. Happy with that. And especially that's quite a small amount of water, So what I can tell from that is that whatever increased that TDS reading is probably calcium type based. Yeah, the sort of salts or minerals or whatever that have come out of that pot are probably mainly calcium, and as a consequence that's put the pH up an absolute fraction. So I would suggest these are pretty good quality pots. And the other good thing about rock hard clay pots is that they're less prone to algae. But bearing in mind, they're destined for Cattleyas and a few other sorts, they're not going to stay soggy wet like they would need to do for, say, a Paphiopedilum or something like that. So as a consequence of drying thoroughly in between waterings, the algae's really not going to do very well. Algae thrives on moisture. And a totally dry environment is just not suitable. So the pot should stay quite clean. Bearing in mind the plants are going to go in there, they're destined to go in there for years, literally years. So, we'll see how they go. I'm pleased with that. Anyway, okay. So that's that little experiment. That's that one done. Thanks for dropping by. See you next time.